right, guys, we're back. And yes, I do have Miss Natasha. You guys know who this person is. She's been helping me with my triathlon training. So she's gonna go over the entire layout on how you actually train for a triathlon, how you're gonna get it together and put it all into play, programming and everything. But I highly recommend, if you are looking for some training, to check her out. But Natasha, take it away.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it. So when we have an athlete come to us, we always ask them, what are they training for? And we want to know what are the demands of the race. So in Phil's case, he wants to eventually be able to do an Ironman. And the demands of the race is he has to be prepared to do a 2.4 mile swim. He then has to ride his bike for 112 miles. And then he has to run a 26 mile marathon, 26.2 mile marathon in succession. So where we start with that is we have to start from the beginning. We want to meet the athlete where they are. So while we would periodize their whole schedule and eventually actually work our way back from that race day, where we need to start is we have to figure out where his fitness is. So we're going to test athletes to understand what kind of fitness are they bringing into their training, and then also that testing is going to identify their strengths and weaknesses and set up their training zones. Once we've established that, we understand how many weeks do we have to work with an athlete. Depending on what kind of fitness they're bringing into it, for some it might only take 12 weeks to prepare for an Ironman. For others it may take up to a year to prepare. We want to make sure to take a slow approach so that they stay healthy, so they're not getting injured, they're not getting burnt out, and they have fun with it. You have to love to train if you want to train for an Ironman. So once we've set that up, we're going to say, okay, if our race day is November 7th, for example, we have to work our way back. The final part of preparation is taper. How long taper is really dependent on the athlete and how much training load they have taken into the taper. So the more training, the more they're going to need to rest for that final big race day. Prior to that, we have our race-specific training phase. And again, that's very specific to the athlete. And that's really just getting the athlete ready for the demands of the race. So we're identifying what the pacing is, what their nutrition is, and really getting them comfortable with those distances, making them assured that they can complete those distances on that day. Everything prior to that race-specific block is about making them the best athlete they can possibly be. It's going to be different for every athlete. If you are a very competitive athlete, we're getting you as fast as possible because your Ironman capability is only going to be a percentage of your peak power, peak pace capability. So everything is about getting you as strong and fast as possible up to that race-specific block. However, if you are new to triathlon, it's really about just making sure you are durable enough to hit the demands of the distances. So it's just building a foundation, being consistent, essentially what we call base training. So what does that look like? Once you've periodized your schedule, and I'll tell you how we block it out. If you have a lot of training every single week, we will typically go 3 weeks up, a 3-week build, and then we'll use that 4th week as a recovery, deload, adaptation week, and really just get ready for that next 3-week build. If you don't have a lot of time to train, there's no reason to recover for that amount of time. The recovery is worked into your week. So for some people, we just build through it. Really depends on the person. So now we get down to how can we schedule the week, and this is honestly the most important part. It's like putting a puzzle together because you're trying to train for 3 different sports and you're adding strength into the mix to make sure that you stay healthy through this process. So swim, bike, and run. Obviously the swim comes first and is so important because it affects how well you bike and run. If you take too much fatigue into that swim and you're so tired coming out of the swim for the bike, it's just going to ruin your race day. So we emphasize swimming and we make sure that we're swimming 3 times a week versus typical programs. If you're starting, it's only 2 times a week, and that's just not enough time for the technique element and to build fitness in the water. After that, the bike. The bike is the longest time you're going to be out there on the course. It's typically between 4 hours for the professionals, but some athletes are out there for 8 hours, and that is obviously going to affect the way you run. So the next sport we're going to cover is cycling. And so we're putting 3 bikes into the training program, and we're going to make sure that we are fresh going into these bike workouts to get the most out of them. The final part of our running is we pretty much just slot them in where we can, but making sure at the end of the day, the 2 key things when training for an Ironman is we get some longer sessions in there. And so typically they work during the week, they don't have a lot of time to spend on their bike or their run. And so we say there's long bike run sessions for the weekend, and that is purely because that's when they have the time to do it. At the end of the day, you have to make the schedule work for you where you can fit it in with your lifestyle and be consistent about it. I feel like once you get that weekly schedule down, it repeats week in, week out, because you know you're able to fit it in and you feel good for all the key sessions. So building out a layout like this and then moving things around to make it work for you is so, so important. I'll tell you how I build out a week. And we start with a Monday with swim and mobility. And the reason we have swim and mobility on Monday is because Saturday and Sunday are really big training days. And so come Monday, we're really tired usually. And so we want to have a day to adapt from those two sessions and be off the legs and give it an opportunity to just recover through the pool. A lot of these swim workouts work as active recovery as well. And then the mobility, again, it's all about injury prevention and just getting some movement through the body to set us up for a really good Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then we typically have a bike and run off on Tuesday. Those are typically the workouts where we'll put a little more intensity in, because after an easier day Monday, that's where we feel the freshest. So the hardest workouts are always where we feel the best. And then it tapers off after that. Wednesday is typically a swim, and it may depend based on the level of the athlete how hard we go on this run. If you're brand new to the sport, just doing the sport alone is enough. If you are someone who is in the professional ranks, then this may be a workout that we're looking to push our speed up, build our threshold, etc. Thursday, because these two have been harder workouts, we're looking to deload, recover, and just continue to build our aerobic base. It might be an opportunity to work on your skills out on the road, so taking corners, changing gears, and then we add the element of strength to that as well. For the most part, this is more low-key day to work off these harder intensity days. Friday, we want to again deload from the week and make sure we're prepared for Saturday, Sunday, which are your most important days in preparing for an Ironman. So we're doing a big swim, and this Friday run is just a recovery run. I always say go as easy as possible. Essentially, you're trying to return your body back to homeostasis to be ready to really smash the Saturday and Sunday workouts. Then the final thing you have to be prepared for an Ironman: equipment. Okay, so you have swimming equipment, you have the training equipment, and then you have the race day equipment. So it might be tools in the pool that you're using to enhance your technique. And then race day, you may need a wetsuit, you may need a swim skin, you have your goggles. Usually not too much on the swim, but those are the key things that you'll need. The bike is heavy equipment where you'll need your bike, your helmet, your cycling shoes. And then the run, it's basically your running shoes, race belt, hat, sunglasses. Outside of that, nutrition. In order to train this amount, you really have to dial your nutrition in, basically so you can feel good during your sessions, but be able to recover so you can do it again the next day. And then the final thing is pacing. Throughout all these workouts you're doing, you have to have a good understanding of how can you pace yourself well enough to complete all of this and feel good all day. And that we work on during our race-specific phase, and we dial in based off our test numbers that we did at the start of the block.
So one thing I did want to do was in the equipment section, there's a lot of dollar signs, and that means it was really, really expensive for the equipment. So just be ready for that if you're ready to start your triathlon training. Obviously, we're getting ready for an event in December, and then I'm also doing a half Ironman next year, and then transitioning over into an Ironman. We're also going to be doing a podcast soon, so make sure you check it out. It's going to come out next week, so make sure you be on the lookout for that. Go to my podcast channel, Daru Strong Podcast. Also, where can they find you? Instagram, and then also NVDM Coaching.
That's right. Yeah, so you can find me. My website for coaching is NVDM Coaching, and you can actually just scroll down and shoot me a message if you want to find out more about how we work with athletes, both online and in person. And then I'm on Instagram. It's just NatashaVDM81.
Also, I'm going to do a part 2 to this, working through the strength and power training that you're going to be doing that fits into this particular schedule. So be on the lookout for part 2. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification if you haven't done so. Hit the like button if you like what she's just been talking about. And trust me, you just got a ton of knowledge within this short amount of time. So make sure you like it. I'll see you again next time. Peace.